Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crowdsourced Challenge in Farming Simulator 17. We are of course on the Wheel of Rules once again. Time to find out what today's new rule is. I think I might have forgotten to take some stuff out, but we'll see what it is. I have to tramline the fields. That's something I was going to do anyway, so that's a really nice rule. Got two nice rules in a row. Although the one that came up yesterday might get annoying in the winter and you'll see why. So I'm gonna put that into the list and hop in game, and I'll catch you guys once I am ready to go in game. Alright, today's plan for the video is we're gonna do a bit of seeding of oilseed radish because it needs to be done. But first I need to, for sanity's sake, get this John Deere refueled because I'm pretty sure it's a bit it could probably do a couple of fields, but just to be on the safe side, easier to refuel. If you're wondering why I'm seeding oilseed radish in late summer, as I turn off the blur, it's because if I do this, bring up the seasons menu, I can seed oilseed radish at any time from like mid-spring onwards. If I do it right now, I can actually be very cheeky and cultivate it in the springtime, or plow it under and cultivate it in the springtime. And actually have this is not quite free, but natural fertilizer, and then have a kind of a green manure thing going on. So that's kind of the plan. It's a free fertilizer layer, which is... It's not free, because I had to pay for the seeds, but it's a fertilizer layer that I wouldn't otherwise have. Field 17 is already covered in oilseed radish. It's already seeded up, so... just need to do fields 38, 1 and 3, and then we're good to go to the autumn, because the grass fields are already rolled out, ready to go. And we'll be making some silage come the autumn time. So we're actually way ahead of where I was hoping to be. I'm really happy. I was, at this point, kind of expecting to be doing some spraying or something. By the way, I'm not going to tramline the oilseed radish fields just because you don't really do that in real life. These I'm not going to fertilize, it's pointless. They're going to be cultivated under and used as fertilizer themselves, so the oilseed radish is going to be kind of the exception to the tramlining rule, just because it doesn't make sense to tramline them. They're literally just being used as a free form of fertilizer. Or a free-ish form of fertilizer, I should say. And you can see that it's basically using no... Wow, it is basically using, like, no seeds. Yeah, I'm gonna call this free. Because I started off with this full. And I've already done field 17. I may get all the fields done with this just one fill of the front seed bin, which would be awesome. If you're wondering why I'm using the John Deere for seeding, it's because it was on the cultivator, and I kind of forgot that the Fiat doesn't have a front linkage. If you were watching yesterday's stream, you've seen the moment of realization where I face-palmed quite hard. So we got the Ford ploughing at the moment. The Fiat is doing nothing because it's actually caught up to the Ford. And we're waiting on the Ford to finish field 3, head over to field 1, so we can cultivate field 3 and get the seeds going in there as well. And by the way, I know that I don't necessarily need to cultivate. It just looks more presentable if I do. It just looks nicer when I'm seeding if the field is cultivated. I might skip cultivating field 3 for now and just seed straight onto the ploughed field. Also, because I'm using the ground response mod, the terrain response mod, it does stop weird things happening, because sometimes, especially with mods, they just don't react to it very well, and yeah, it's a lot easier to just deal with cultivated ground for seeding than it is to deal with ploughed ground. Although I did see there's a spot in this field that I actually missed when I was cultivating that is still just ploughed, but it's fine. It's not going to make much of a difference. So I said yesterday that I was going to do a video on the trailer the Giants released. I've decided against that. Number one, it would take me an age to get it done, and I'm really just late to the party as is. And number two, I don't feel like there's much that needs to be said. I can talk about it here real quick. For me, the absolute highlight of that trailer yesterday was seeing the cotton bale at long last. You guys know I've been raging and ranting about the cotton bale so much, so I'm really glad that we finally got to see that and see kind of get a vague idea of how it's dealt with the specialist cotton bale trailer that can tilt up and load the bale up. That is a real piece of equipment. That is awesome to see. It's nice to see new and interesting bits of equipment coming in. I said this in the stream yesterday, I will 110% be doing cotton at some point in FS19, and maybe on maps that don't necessarily suit cotton, but I love the equipment that's there for it, so expect to see me do a decent bit of cotton. It just looks so very interesting as a crop. What else was in the trailer that was interesting? The T7, I think, was in the trailer. That was nice to see. Some new Amazon equipment as well. Nice to see some of the smaller Amazon equipment making a bit of a comeback. Looking forward to seeing, you know, a bit more equipment, a bit more machinery at work. Hopefully more trailers. Honestly, hopefully more stuff like the Komatsu trailer that, yes, I didn't put up. Or the Komatsu teaser trailer fact file thing the Giants did. I don't know exactly how to phrase that correctly, but the Komatsu thing they brought out earlier this week as well, the middle of this week, that was really interesting. I'd love to kind of get more insight into the machinery in real life and how it's used and what the brands themselves think of being in the game and how they see farm sim, because I think Komatsu were a bit unapologetic in saying or kind of hinting that, yeah, farm sim's just a really good method to advertise our machinery. It's good to give people who might be interested in Komatsu stuff just a virtual way to trial the machinery without putting hours on demo rigs, and it's just nice to get eyes out there on the different brands, and I think that's a lot that's the way that a lot of brands are thinking. It's a very cynical way of looking at the game. And I know this, and I know somebody's going to complain somewhere that, I'm saying this and it's very cynical, and it's kind of... You might see it as me putting farm sim down, saying that, oh, brands see it as a really good advertising opportunity. Well, brands tend to look at successful things that they can be in as really good advertising opportunities. You look at farm sim, it's outsold Call of Duty. It is one of the biggest games in Germany. You don't get brands jumping into nothing games. You don't see, it's a bad example because John Deere did have an exclusive license, but you don't see the likes of John Deere in some random farming game on mobile. And their exclusive license that was for games was actually for mobile games, so bad example. But you don't see John Deere, Case, New Holland, Massey Ferguson, Valtra, Challenger, Fendt. You don't see all these brands in like in just a random game. It has to be the best game for these brands to go in, for these brands to see it as, hang on, if we're in here, that's really good for us because people will get eyes on the product. It's the brands see it cynically because they're looking at it from a business perspective, and I can kind of see that perspective too. But at the same time, them saying, oh, this is really good advertising for us. It's a really good business move for us to be in farm sim. It's them saying farm sim is played by so many people and it's so widely acclaimed that, yeah, it's good for us to be in it because it makes us look good. It makes us look good that we're in this game that so many people play, and so many people can see our machinery and play with our machinery and use our machinery and kind of get to grips with what we want to do. And it's great that more and more brands are doing this, and I've heard there's a lot of small brands. I don't know the truth behind this. I've heard there's a lot of small brands kind of queuing up to be in the game. because they see the value of being in Farm Sim now, and it's fantastic for Giants to have these brands throwing themselves at them. But at the same time, for Giants, it sucks because they've got to say no to some brands because we've already got 17 different brands that fit into your same niche that want to be in the game. And we feel these, this one or these two or these three fit a bit better than yours does, and we're really sorry. Other things from the trailer from yesterday, before I go off on a full-on video, full rant about how great Farm Sim is. And how brands should see it as a good method of advertising. Looking at you, certain brands that aren't in the game. Another thing that I was really excited for from the trailer was the Fendt 512C, the old little Fendt that was in the trailer. We only got a kind of a brief glimpse of it, but it's great to see, an old timer. It's not all that old, but it's great to see a classic piece of equipment in the game. It's great. It's honestly just great to see more and more equipment coming in. It's great to see options, even age options for equipment. I don't want to use just the newest John Deere's or just the newest Fendts. I want to use stuff from, the 90s. I want to start off with, machinery that maybe is from 2001 because the farmer that used to own the land had this machinery or something like that. I want options so that I can do, if I want to, a role-play storyline where it all kind of fits together logically, as opposed to the way that you kind of have to work it if you're only using default machinery in Farm Sim is like, well, I've got this Ford, or this New Holland from 1998, and this case from also 1998, and this Deutz from also 1998, and this Hurleyman from 1976. It doesn't mesh, so more kind of age variety in brands I think is great. Honestly, I like seeing older tractors in the game. I prefer using older tractors. This isn't the newest John Deere I'm using, the 7430. It's not the newest machine. It is fairly new, but it's not the newest. The Ford I'm using, obviously I'm using Pedro's edit of it that makes it look a bit older. It's not new at all. The Fiat is old. It's a Fiat, for goodness sake. So I don't like using the newest, shiniest things in Farm Sim. I like kind of and this is my own personal preference, and Giants don't have to cater to this if they don't want to. They make their own decisions on the game, but I'm gonna get mods that'll suit my personal preferences. I like using mods that are tractors and vehicles that I'd see in real life, and I see a decent few 7430 premiums, and granted it's mainly 6930 premiums, but I see a lot of John Deere premiums that look identical to this. I see a lot of 8340s. They at one point were the most common tractors around me. Fiat Agris, no, I don't see them at all, but there's so many people who come to me and say, Dave, you should use a Fiat in Shamrock Valley, that I kind of felt I had to. And by the way, you can see why I've chosen the Cedar now. Normally I avoid using this because it is, quite small. It's only 4 meters, which sounds big, but when you're doing decent sized fields, it suddenly becomes very small on a lot of maps. But here on Shamrock Valley, it's I honestly think this is like the perfect sized Cedar for this map. It's just a bit of a shame that the hose mechanics aren't in yet, because it just looks so perfect, and I know that I shouldn't have the front loader on, but deal with it. It just fits so perfectly on the field sizes that it's almost a shame if it would be a shame if I didn't use it, at least to begin with. I may, and I probably will, upgrade to a 6 meter Cedar, eventually, but 4 meters is honestly kind of the happy middle point for me. 3 meters is too small, and 6 for the fields you start off with, too big. So thank you, Giants and Kuhn, for bringing this into the game. But I do want to touch on something kind of a... I don't know if it's necessarily negative. I do want to touch on a small bit of criticism I have of the trailer yesterday, and that's that there wasn't much that was completely new there. Yes, there was a cotton bale. Yes, there was the new trailer that that can load up the cotton, but in terms of the other machinery shown, the other tractors, apart from the Fendt, it was all stuff that's already existing in FS17. So I would have liked to see kind of more glimpses of the newer stuff. I know why Giants did it. They don't want to give away too much too quickly. Completely understand that, but you know, it's just me wanting to see more and more of the game and not being able to. But I would have liked to see more of the newer equipment, and honestly, I kind of would like to see more of the cotton harvester. Like I'd like to see it unfolding. I'd like to see it starting up. I'd like to see it, well, unloading fully. I'd like to see the full process of that thing. Like, is there some sort of side unload for it? Instead of making the bales, can you unload it from the side? I don't think you can in real life, but FarmSim might have some mechanic where you can. So there's a lot that I'd still like to know. I don't think Giants will do anything completely unrealistic, like a side unload on a harvester that doesn't have one in real life. But... and actually something else that I literally just thought of. What if we want to stack those cotton bales? Now, granted, you wouldn't do that in real life. They're 8 feet tall. But what if, for example, you want to put them onto a low loader? What if you didn't have the purpose-built cotton bale trailer that can tilt out and pick up the cotton bale like by reversing into it? What if you had, we'll say, and I'm just going to open up low loaders here real quick. What if you had like a Goldhofer or Flegel? Or, we'll say in bale trailers, what if you had the DPW there, or the dually, even though you would never have a dually in America. What if you only had like a flatbed trailer? Is there a piece of equipment in FS19 that you can just drive a wheel loader up, and it would have to be a wheel loader. You drive a wheel loader up, grab the bales somehow, and load it onto the trailer. Do they have that in? Because I know that's a thing in real life. I'd hope to see that in the game as well. Also, more questions than answers, always. What have Giants done to the bales? Have they tweaked bale physics again? Because I think they're, with every iteration of the game, they're getting better and better and better at bale physics. And I think they're very close to getting it right. Have they tweaked bale physics so that round bales maybe have a collision mask that can deform a bit and settle them on hills? Because in real life that's what round bales do. They deform because of the sheer weight, and they settle on hills. Whereas in FarmSim, even on a hill that you would just bale straight up and down in real life, you gotta bale at weird angles to get the bales to not roll off. So I'd like to know if Giants have improved that at all. I'd like to know if the bale handling is improved at all. The default bale handling in FS17 is very, very close to being believable for me. Now, I don't have any experience, so I can't say realistic, but it's very, very close to being believable. There's still a couple of times when I'm not using any of the mods that I have, when I don't have, you know, any autoload scripts, because they do tweak bale physics, when I don't have game extension, when I don't have creator tools, when I'm just using the default mechanics of the game. There's still a few times when I'm loading up bales and I think that doesn't make much sense. Those bales wouldn't do that in real life, I don't think. And I hope Giants just improve on those little times where you kind of have to sit back and say, would that happen in real life though? When it comes to the bales. And I know, you know, FarmSim's a simcade game, unapologetically, and I think that's the best way to make the game, but there is that little time, there are little times when you're looking at the bales and you think, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It'd be much better if they did this. And hopefully, you know, they get those little rough edges sanded down in FS19. Hopefully it's even possible to sand down those rough edges, because I'm not sure if the brown bales can be made so they kind of morph and change collisions on the fly. So that would be an issue for Giants to try and solve, and I don't know how they do it. But you know, there's a lot that they could still improve. The game's never going to be perfect. So don't take this as me railing on Giants. The game's never going to be perfect. Nothing ever is. However, Giants will endeavor to get it as close as they can, and I'm going to nitpick as much as I can. So that at least the little problems that could be fixed are known. And are out there in kind of in the spotlight. You know, like bale handling. The bales do really great sticking together, but they don't feel, once you put them on the trailer, they don't feel like they've got weight at all. They kind of lose all of their mass when you're loading them onto the trailer. When you're driving them on the trailer, sure, they've got tons of mass. But there's that weird moment where the weight of the bales disappears on the trailer when you're loading them, because you can pull 2 bales by just grabbing the top one and pushing down enough. Which doesn't make sense at all. And there's the unfortunate moments where the collisions break on a bale and the forks just slide straight through. You know, that's a game thing that maybe can be fixed, maybe can't. There's the round bales just magically rolling down hills at times when it doesn't make sense, and sometimes they don't roll when it makes perfect sense that they would. So kind of there's 2 different ways of looking at that. There's of course this is something that I'd like to see, but I know the reason Giants don't do it, and I'll explain the reason in a second. I'd like to see them using multi-terrain angle, which is what Oxy's using here to make these beautiful curves. And the reason Giants don't do it is that I'm trying to find a spot here where this happens so that I can show you. Sometimes with multi-terrain angle, if it's not done right, the textures don't quite line up. You can see there's kind of a seam going across here where the textures change. Sometimes they don't quite line up. That's why Giants have the weird 8 angles and default maps. It's because multi-terrain just sometimes does a couple of weird little things. You can have little visible seams going along in the textures. Now that's not something I really mind all that much. It looks better to have multi-terrain in. You know, it looks more realistic, looks a lot more believable, but it's something Giants don't want to put in because there would be kind of integration issues with meshing the textures together, and that's perfectly fine. But you know, it's a little thing that I would love to see. That's just probably not going to happen. The new lighting system I just love. I hope that it works as well as it looks like it's going to. What else is a little thing that annoys me? The tree physics make no sense. Some of the stuff you can't lift. Like, it makes sense you can't lift bales. But some of the trees in Farm Sim, I've literally like 10 or more than 10 years ago now, lifted trees bigger than the ones in Farm Sim. Like, hoisted straight up and pulled it out of branches that it was stuck in. By hand. No machinery involved. So sometimes the lifting up... some of the stuff where you can't pick up trees doesn't make sense to me, because I know that it should be possible. And I know that's a really oddly specific one, but it's one where I've had personal experience of, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me because I've literally done this in real life. But that is the field seeded. We've done a pretty good job getting the oilseed radish in, and we've used basically nothing. We've used, we'll say 12.5% of the seed box here. So we're still good for quite a while, which is good because I don't have any more seeds lying about. The chickens, by the way, I have taken the eggs from. Field 17, you can see, is already fully seeded. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this up to the yard and just put it away for the time being, because we need to wait for the Ford to finish ploughing in Field 3. And then the feed to come in, take over cultivating. And then we can do more seeding of Field 3. The grass fields are all ready to rumble. They're all ready to go into the autumn. And it looks like we will actually be finishing up the seeding in the autumn, just looking at the time in game. Because it is 6:43 PM. We are going to be working until dusk, until sunset. Yeah, we've still got a decent bit of time. It's still nice and bright. So you do still have some time to work with. Even on times 3 speed. Just want to check if I did in fact roll Field 7. I did. Sometimes those textures don't look quite right to me and they confuse me, so it's always easier to double check than to be horrifically wrong. So in terms of animals, I'm just going to give you a real quick run through of how we are standing right now. We've got 4 cows. We've got 4 sheep and 4 cows. The sheep could do with a bit more grass, and we will have to transition over to getting them hay very soon. The cows could also do with more grass, so we do need to try and get some sort of solution there. But that is pretty much all we have time for. I mean, we've got nothing. We've got all the seeding done on Field 38. We can't really go into Field 3 yet. We could, but it wouldn't make sense when the plough is still in there. So all we can do now is go into today's stream, finish the ploughing, finish the cultivating, finish the oilseed radish seeding, and hopefully get up to a point where in hopefully tomorrow's video we will be starting in the autumn silage. So I will leave you by saying I've been RainbowDave, you've been watching Farming Simulator 17, the crowdsourced challenge on Shamrock Valley. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.